When we last saw our knowledge seekers in Grunger's Big Adventure, Turner had just received promising feedback from his teacher on his first short story. She even suggested getting the work published. Ms. Healy knows good story structure when she reads it.
There's the next great author.
Hey,
I may write a story about you for the school newspaper.
that'd be cool, but I'm not great. Yet.
Oh, you seemed pretty excited when you texted me.
Oh yeah, I think I told you I've been sending copies of my story to all kinds of publishers. Can you believe I've already heard back from 3 of them? They all like grunge and had helpful suggestions, but it wasn't quite the type of story they publish. And this 4th envelope just came in the mail.
Who's this from? Kid Writer's World. I have a good feeling about this one.
Hold that thought. Will Turner's persistence lead to Grunge being published? Has Natalie been inspired to write a tale of her own? Join the knowledge seekers as they follow the path to strong story structure in this episode of Thinking Aloud.
Ms. Healy said that your story structure had improved. What is that?
It's one of the topics that we've been learning about. Once you know the structure of a story, it's easy to write your own. And as an added benefit, knowing story structure also helps you to remember the key points of any story you read. Here, let's use this piece of paper to create a story map. First, fold the paper into 3 equal parts. There, you've got the basic structure of a story. Each section of the paper represents a part of the story. Every story has a beginning, middle, and an ending.
Okay.
But there's more. Since we're making a story map, X marks the spot where the story begins. We mark another X where the story will end. Notice I'm marking my ending X higher than my beginning X, because every reader should gain something from the experience.
But how do we get from here to there?
That's the creative part. When I think about starting a story, I need to introduce the reader to the characters. The characters are the people or animals who are in the story. In my story, I decided to have
Grunge.
You're right. I also learned that authors put the characters into a particular time and place called the setting.
I remember this. The setting for your story is one day at the dump.
Uh-huh. But I also learned that for a story to move forward, the character must have a goal. A goal is something the character wants or works toward. I decided that Grunge wanted to climb Jagged Top Mountain, but he needed a reason. Did you like the soggy travel brochure idea?
Clever.
So once you determine a goal for your character, you have to give him a problem. That's when something goes wrong. All stories have to have a problem for the character to solve. Grunge's problem was trying to find a trail to the top of Jagged Top Mountain.
I can see why he was confused.
I have to think of more than one way for the character to solve his problem.
So that's the reason for the 4 trails.
I couldn't have Grunge find the right trail right away. That would have solved the problem too quickly. Good authors learn the craft of storytelling from the traditions of the old storytellers. You know the story of the 3 bears or the 3 little pigs?
Yeah, so what does that have to do with grunge?
Before there were books with the stories written down, the storyteller needed to be able to remember them. You know, if you try to remember much more than 3 things, it's easy to get it mixed up. In a story, the character gets 3 tries to solve the problem. Of course, each one doesn't work. Remember the porridge, the chair, and the bed?
And the straw, sticks, and bricks?
Exactly.
So this works for short stories. What about novels, movies?
It gets a little more complicated, but the basic story structure is the framework. A story is a story.
I had no idea.
I decided to have Grunge encounter trails with dead ends. To make it more interesting, I thought of...
Wait, don't tell me. There's Walter, Ollie, and Eddie.
You've got it. Each time Grunge couldn't make it up the mountain, he still has his problem to solve. I indicate each try on the map. Trail A ended at the ski slope, Trail B was wiped out in an avalanche, and Trail C took him to Eddie's bat cave. Because these 3 events are obstacles to the character achieving the goal, I show him returning to the level of the problem. In each case, Walter, Ollie, and Eddie show Grunge the way back down the mountain. So I label each event. In my writer's workshop, we learned the series of these events is called the plot. I also learned that skillful authors save their best idea for last. You see, the author finally writes a solution that does work. The solution is when the problem gets solved. It's important that the character meets his goal. The bears come home, and Goldilocks runs away.
Oh, and the wolf comes down the chimney into the pot. I never realized that stories have patterns. So that's why you had Grunge go back up the mountain on Trail D with a herd of mighty mountain goats. Let's see if I've got it. Grunge, your character, lives in a dump. The setting. He wants to get to the top of Jagged Top Mountain, the goal, but he can't find the right trail, the problem. So, after 3 tries, Trail A, B, and C, he joins the mountain goats. He gets to the top of Jagged Top Mountain by way of Trail D, which is the solution. This story structure stuff really works. It did help me remember the parts of your story.
Hey, pretty good. But I also learned in the writer's workshop that you shouldn't stop writing a story at the point of the solution. The ending is more than the end. It's the last third of the story. I learned that skillful authors use the ending of the story to wrap it up. I knew I couldn't leave Grunge at the top of the mountain. I decided to have him long for his stinky dump, say goodbye to his new friends, and tell everyone back home about his adventure.
You know, I'm thinking about the structure of the story I'm going to write about you. It begins with you writing your story. Your goal is to get published, but your problem is finding the right publisher. You've heard back from 3 different publishers who all said no. And the 4th?
Could be the solution. Kid Writers World would be pleased to publish Grunge's Big Adventure.
Hey, you did it!
The Knowledge Seekers have found that there is no mystery in good story structure. You too will be well on your way to writing a great masterpiece if you think about the characters, setting, goal, problem, events, and solution. Map your way to great stories and be sure to watch the next episode of Thinking Aloud.